left yesterday, and the idea was how to make New Testament for a Jew. We finished with the pictures of Marc Chagall. If you remember, Marc Chagall is only one of the artists that dealt with Jesus, for example, and with Christian characters and with Christian stories. And this is quite interesting in Israeli culture. Most of the Israelis never read the New Testament. Not in school, God forbid. Not in the public space of Jewish culture, no. But artists that are reading works of other artists that may come from Christian background are interested. Where did you take this from? Everybody goes in a European museum and looks on these pictures all around, hanging all around. There are so many motives from the New Testament. So these kinds of artistic intellectuals, they are reading or they are trying to understand the stories of the New Testament. So if in the academic world only history students have to learn about the Second Temple period, one of the most important sources we have, on the other hand, art history students have to learn it, and for some years we're giving this short introduction in the New Testament for them. And but they're also bothered with mythology. Everybody enters Renaissance and Baroque is bothered with intertextuality to Bible and to pagan materials, and this is kicking them off. They have no, in Israel, education, higher education in the high schools. They get almost nothing to understand something of this world. And but this is very interesting. I can only say if you want to come or want to see something about the intellectual approach to, or changing intellectual approaches to Jesus and to the New Testament, don't look in the National Library here, don't look in our National Library, go to the museum or look for poetry. This is very interesting in Hebrew poetry and in translated. Even in translated collections you find there is a Jesus, there's a Maria, there's all kinds of interesting interrelation. Maria as a Jewish girl, or as a Jewish young woman, and so on and so on. So this is the idea that okay, in the academic world we are in a very quite stress. Most of the religious students, of the traditional students, have no idea even how to handle it. For example, to take the book of the New Testament home, and then the parent could ask, what are you learning? Yes, and then you need parents in Israel to give you money for, or back up for your study. So this is a very problematic, and even more problematic with students from the Muslim Arabic world. For them it's even more harder. But now in the age of the internet, I can give them internet sites, and what people are looking on the internet, or maybe all kinds of weird things and so on. So this is just to explain the strange situation. And in Western Europe you have the other situation. Around the people have free access to everything, but why dealing with this? And again, most interesting are students of arts and of poetry and of literature. When they find motives, they want to get some tools to use them. Okay, so I try to repeat my main thesis from revelation to relation, because this was in the first century before Common Era and in the first century of Common Era, one of the main things that happened in Judaism. That you don't have to be enlightened, you have no romanticism that just comes from your inner voice. No, what brought people to write and to speak up was an outer voice. And they were only the tool to bring it to mankind. And this changed so much, and just what I want to put the finger on it, that if we read New Testament, this is one of the most interesting books for this process, because everybody in Christian tradition said it's a revelation. Yes, the Son of God got revealed in the world. No problem to say a sentence like this in Christian languages. Jews have some problems with this, and so on, but I try now to find the other way around. Okay, we began yesterday to read the beginnings of the Gospels. And now we want to read the Gospel according to Luke. The Gospel according to Luke is a very interesting book, and now let's try to see the opening sentences. Inasmuch as many have undertaken to compile a narrative of the things that have been accomplished among us, just as those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word have delivered them to us. It seemed good to me also, having followed all things closely for some time past, to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilos, that you may have a certainty concerning the things you have been taught. Full stop. This is not a Hebrew sentence. Hebrew sentences are short. Hebrew sentences come to the point. Subject, predicate, object, you got it. This is a Greek sentence. This is Greek, and this going on, and it's related, and it's defined. It's not unclear, but it's defined. And in English we have a lot of problems, because English is not grammarly gendered in the words, so you have the most difficult, but Greek is grammarly gendered in the substantives, in the adjectives, and in the verbs. So you can follow all these connections through the sentence, and sometimes you get tired. But but this is the idea. The Byzantine Greek has some solutions found from going to a kind of word order, but every time when they have classical periods, making it all stretch out the sentences over half a page. Okay, but this is completely new. Here someone has awareness of historical literature. He was to write and compile a narrative of the things that had been accomplished among us. Okay, this happened, but how do we do this? From the beginning were eyewitnesses and ministers of the words have delivered them to us, and it seemed to be good almost because I followed the things closely for some times past. So I am a witness for the last days, but earlier I'm aware of it, that I'm trying to achieve eyewitness and ministers. And don't believe any Greek historian when he's saying things like this. He makes up speeches as he like it. He makes up events as he needs it, and so on and so on. But he's saying, I'm writing, and he knows this concept that you say, I have eyewitness, I have people who were close to the events, and I have even seen it on my own. Okay, this is very interesting. Someone is not writing inside the Semitic context, but writing in the Greek context of Greek culture. And then the friend he is writing to, Theophilos. We have no idea who it is. Theophilos is a friend of God, or friend of the divine. You can understand. It's a nice name. You can put any other else, and so on. It's a good guy. Okay, from this point of view, we have no idea, but we have to assume that it's someone who is a Greek, and again, he has to know Bible, so he has to be a Greek Jew, and it's interesting what happens in the land of Israel, so he wants to get an account, maybe that he already became a Christian, so, but Lucas uses this opening as a cultural opening. From all the New Testament Gospels, this is the best Greek from this point of view, not only from the Greek and grammar, but vocabulary and writing to an open context. But he's writing to the Greeks, or Greek-speaking people, but he gives a billion of details of the Jewish life in the land of Israel. It's the most important book for history of daily life in the land of Israel. If you want to know what happened, how were the personal relations were, what family was, what life was, and so on and so on, the Gospel of Luke about Jewish life gives the most important thing. It's a little bit lengthy, so most of the students in Israel have only to read Mark, only the script of the story of Jesus, but and Matthew is making you crazy because all the time he's writing his gospel in verses, in relation to biblical verses. So you have to open two books on the table. This is complex. But again, Luke is a translator or a transmitter of the Jewish culture, Judaism in the land of Israel. Okay, in the days of Herod, king of Judea, we have one problem. You know the problem. We have a father called Herod, and we have a son called Herod, and we have a grandson called Herod. Who is this Herod? And we have to assume it's Herod the Great, but it's not sure, because Lucas is writing in the days after Herod II. So, and so on and so on. So these are nice problems that, okay, let's say this is the famous one. Okay, king of Judah. There was a priest named Zechariah of the division of Abia. Wow, he knows that the priests are not coming individually to serve in the temple, they come according to divisions. There were 12 divisions. They were serving twice a year and for a week all the time, and he knows this. So that Zechariah would come on another day to the temple. He had nothing to do there, even if he was a priest. Only the priests of the divisions were working on this day. And he had a wife from the daughters of Aaron. He is a priest, and his wife is a daughter of Aaron, so from the priestly descent. So there are a priestly, they are from the priestly family. And her name was Elisheva, Elizabeth. And they were both righteous before God, walking blameless in all the commandments and statutes of the Lord. But they had no child, because Elizabeth was barren, and both were advanced in years. And as you know from the Old Testament, this is a good start of the story. It's a tragedy, but it's a good start. Okay, this is, both were advanced in years, okay. Now, while he was serving as a priest before God, when his division was on duty, again, explaining what the term division means, according to the custom of the priesthood, he was chosen by lot to enter the temple of the Lord and burn incense. Okay, so there is the Temple Mount, there is the district of the priests, there is the building of the temple, and in the front of the temple building is an opening, and the priest had to do daily incenses to clean the air for practical reasons. You have something like insects and so going around, but also for culture, for cult reason, that this is holy air in this area. And if you're a neighbor to an Orthodox church in Germany, you know very well when Easter time is. Because you can smell it. Yes, and so on. Okay, so, and burn incense. And the whole multitude of the people were praying outside at the hour of the incense. This is a moment where someone gets into it and gets close to the holy, and the people praying outside that he will be successful, because this shows to the people outside when the smoke going up from the incense, this shows that there is a successful interaction between the people of Israel and God. And the whole multitude of the people were praying outside at the hour of incense, and there appeared to him an angel of the Lord standing on the right side of the altar of incense. That's new. This does not happen every day, and this does not happen every week. Okay. Okay. And Zechariah was troubled when he saw him. Fear fell upon him, and the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer has been heard, and your wife will bear you a son. And you shall call his name John." How you call the father? Zechariah. How do you have to call your first son, your eldest son? Zechariah. Or at least maybe also the name of your father. So it may be, this is more common nowadays in Judaism. Okay? But the angel is doing something very strange. You get a child, but the name, what means John, Yochanan? God is full of mercy. God gives you mercy. Okay? And you will have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth, for he will be great before the Lord. And he must not drink wine or strong drink. What's this? He has to be a Nazarite, a person that doesn't cut his hair. This looks weird after sometimes. And is not allowed to drink any alcohol during his period of the Nazarite. The Nazarites, many of the Nazarite law became part of the monk tradition. Yes, it's not cutting the hair, and you see them going with the hair back, and they drink alcohol, but only in holy context, and so on and so on. Okay, so, and he will go before him in the spirit and power of Elijah, and he will go before him. Is there another child around? You know. Okay. To turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just, to make ready for the Lord a people prepared. Okay. And Zechariah said to the angel, "How shall I know this? For I am old, and my wife is advanced in years." They have no this kind of special medical treatment for later ages. Okay. And the angel answered him, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I was sent to speak to you and to bring you to you this good news. And behold, you will be silent and unable to speak until the day that these things take place, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled in their time." Wow! Don't begin to query with angels. This would be not good. If you speak, no talk for the next time, and so on and so on. This is a very fascinating story, because some people need to accept it. Yes? If our children or grandchildren are seeing movies, they're believing the stories. But as adults, we are trying to distinguish between fiction and faction, and what might be facts, and so on. Okay. But one thing is very interesting. These are the first words, the first story in the book of Luke. And as you know me, I have a third eye open for art. So, and you see here again, early Renaissance. He knows the tools of Renaissance. He knows what a portrait means. You see all the people's faces. They still have not that much body. They are quite clumsy, still like Gothic. But what is happening here? You see the communication between the angel and Zechariah is happening where? He's helping with his perspective. In the center of the center of the center of the world. It is happening over the altar of incense in the temple, in the center of the Jewish world. This is a Renaissance artist. He knows the tools now. He knows the tools of architecture to reflect architecture according to perspective very well. So he uses it and paints a picture that understands Luke very well. Luke begins the story of Jesus. What's the problem of the biography of Jesus? He's born, grew up in the Galilee. What is the Galilee of Belgrade? What's the most northern area of Serbia? Yeah? This is Galil. This means Galil. Galil means province. Okay? The province of the province of the province. So, you see, this is a slight reduction of a biography. Everybody knows that he has an accent from this area there in the north. Yes? And then he repairs it. Where begins the story? In the middle of the middle of the middle. Okay, and now I'm asking where's the middle of the middle of the middle in Belgrade? But no, it's not. This depends. This depends. This year they took me out of the university, so...
They took me out of the university, so...
Two, yeah, okay. So we have to now begin a counter story. This is the center of Jewish culture. Okay. It's just to show you that someone, as an artist, again, read the Bible and said, okay, I know it. I know what I have to do. And invents this kind of picture. Okay. And the people were waiting for Zechariah, and they were wondering at this delay in the temple, and when they came out, he was unable to speak to them, and they realized that he had seen a vision in the temple. They know this kind of, if something like this happens, that someone don't know to speak up, he saw an angel or something similar. Yeah? And he kept making signs to them and remained mute. And when his time of service was ended, he went to his home. After these days, his wife Elizabeth conceived, and for 5 months she kept herself hidden. Because she's an elderly lady, and now she has signs of what's happening. Thus the Lord has done for me in the days when he looked at me to take away my reproach among people. I can regain my self-esteem. But easy. Let's take it easy. It's not sure. Yeah? In the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God to the city of Galilee. The city of Galilee, Nazareth. This township there at the end of the world. To a virgin betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. Small hint, another family with genealogy. And the virgin's name was Mary, and he came to her and said, "Greetings, O favored one, the Lord is with you." But she was greatly troubled at the saying, tried to discern what sort of greeting this might be. She is unused to this kind of context. She's not from a priestly family. Okay. And the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. And behold, you will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you shall call his name Joseph." Again, not. Okay, you see, even if her father might be Joseph, his father might be Joseph, but not with the name of the father. And now you see how Luke is working. If he wants to say something, he puts you on 2 lines of a plot. And you are responsible for all things you say. He didn't say it. Yes? But what happened in the best families of the priests can also happen in the least families of the province. Okay? He will be great and will be called the Son of Most High, and the Lord God will give him the throne of his father David. And he will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there will be no end. Whoa, that's the sentence. Okay? This is all the reason to write the book of Luke, okay? The Gospel of Luke. And Mary said to the angel, "How will this be, since I am a virgin?" You know what happened in Jerusalem? A barren woman is pregnant. So, you are a virgin or not pregnant? What's the problem? Ah, no, she doesn't know now about it. Okay. And the angel answered her, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. Therefore, the child to be born will be called Holy, the Son of God. And behold," yes, "your relative Elizabeth, in her old age, has also conceived a son, and this is in the 6th month with her, and this is in the 6th month with her, who was called barren." He had no children. "For nothing will be impossible with God." And Mary said, "Behold, I am a servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word." And the angel departed from her. Good that she did not ask any questions, because otherwise the parallel between the words stories would work. Okay. And now you can understand, we have a connection between these two metaphysical stories. With the old woman, or 2 old women, and with the 2 young women. Yes? But you see, we have now a connection. The reader, to live with the story, accepts this kind of parallelism, of parallel stories. In those days, Mary arose and went with haste into the hill country to a town in Judah, and she entered the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. And this was the festival of yesterday. This story.
No,
not
the introduction. This is the meeting between Mary and Elizabeth. That's another feast. But yesterday was Sretenje, which means when Jesus was introduced into the temple.
Into the temple. Okay, this is also we come to it. Okay, we come to it. Okay. So there's a mix two liturgical stations in the year.
This is Susret Marije I Elisavete. Yesterday's feast was Sretenje, so Susret, Sretenje. Basically.
Yes. Okay. So I misunderstood it yesterday. Okay. And when Elizabeth had greeted Mary, the baby leaped in her womb. In the 6th month, someone might feel something. Yes? Mary doesn't feel anything, but okay. In the 9th month, you may see an elbow, a feet coming out, or something. All these kinds of strange things. Okay. And Elizabeth was filled with Holy Spirit, and she exclaimed with a loud cry, "Blessed are you among women, blessed is the fruit of your womb," and so on and so on. And now we see that this chapter is very strange. This is not a story, this is a musical. Because now, when Mary sees the miracle with her elder part of the family, she also wants to have a reaction. And what is she doing? She's singing the Magnificat. And this is the kind that is for us a very important element, understanding Second Temple Judaism. This was a singing movement. When we hear that Jesus and his family went from the Galilee every festival, 3 times a year, to Jerusalem, what were they doing on the way? At least twice sleep, but 2 times sleeping and resting, but all the rest of the time they were singing psalms. The book of the Psalms, that was a book of the temple, became a songbook of those on the way to the temple. And this makes it so strange. But if you have 2 books that are most cited in the New Testament, it's Isaiah, because speaking about the Messiah, and it's the Psalms, because this is the music of our life. We might be ugly, but we have the music. Yeah, this is the idea of Leonard Cohen, but this is also the idea of the New Testament. Yes, we have the music going on, and we can't understand Christian liturgy without these songs. Yes, all the psalms are very important. Okay, this is inherited. But this kind that every event is like a musical, like an opera. There is hold it, and then comes a song. Yes, and I only show this here up, and this is so important. This is so important with yes, when Zechariah sees his son and he is able to speak, he breaks out in a song, the Benedictus, and it's also in every liturgical community. In Christianity, it's known. But then we have here something else, very interesting. The verse 59. On the 8th day they came to circumcise the child. This is a festive moment in every Jewish family. It is born, and they look if the child is strong enough for the 8th day, otherwise they have to delay it, and so on and so on, if it's not strong enough. But if it's strong enough, okay, then it's circumcision. And they would have called him Zechariah after his father. We didn't know this from any other source, that this was the custom in Israel in Second Temple period. But his mother answered, no, he shall be called John. Okay? And they said to her, none of your relatives is called by this name, so where does this child come from? Yes, and so on and so on. But then the Zechariah said, okay, this is it. And the idea that the Jewish child, the Jewish boy, get his name on the 8th day around the circumcision is here the first time attested in all literature. Yes, this is the book. We have the second reminder of the book about the story of Moses, retelling the story of Moses. We have from the 7th century rabbinic text. The people did it, but they did not write it down. Luke, who wants to put the whole story into Jewish context, wrote it down. And thank you for that. So we have more folklore. And the poetry, okay, it's an interesting uptake on psalm poetry, on biblical poetry, but it's not our time here for analyzing poetry. But again, you see here of a born child, you see here of circumcision. No, this is a crazy idea. You have an event and you're singing, and maybe the opening words are somehow connected to the event, but the song is free. Yes? And it's not the melody that's catchy. No, this is a prosodia of poetry, and it's not so catchy. But the idea is you are in an act of doing something, someone is making time out, and then you open the window and you sing. A window to poetry, yes, and so on and so on. And then text and saying and reflection, textual reflection, brings you on other levels. This is a very important use, and this is, again, an attestation in sing. Yeah? We have no rabbis singing when something is happening in the Talmudic literature. But here, first century Judaism, yes, it's very okay. So this is the one time, and now we're coming to the story of his birth. Yes, and because the Baptist was before Jesus, and so now the birth of Jesus, and this is the only one who's telling Luke is the only one who's telling it, and again he puts it in the context of the land of Israel. He brings it from Nazareth to Bethlehem, and so on and so on. But again, when something nice is happening, yes, the sky opens. The floor is yours, dear angels, you can sing now. Yes? Again, this is a very interesting artifact that comes into Christian culture, that you may have the possibility not to sing the action, like in the Homeric Greek epic tradition, but you stop the action and you open the minds into another level of reflection. Yes? And this is here, and it's world literature. So from this point of view, that is bringing up this idea. The people were aware of it, that they're using in the same way they're using it for the Psalms everywhere. Okay. What's now very interesting, they're coming to the time of, and when the time came for their purification according to the law of Moses. What is purification after birth, giving birth? Okay, a woman is for 40 days or for 80 days is impure because all the blood and all the by the time of birth giving, and then she has to go through a ceremony to enable her to return to, and if the Ethiopian women is still to society or in the temple world, it was the possibility to enter the temple again. So someone who was not pure couldn't enter the temple, so he had to do a kind of ritual. And some of the rituals after all kinds of events, you had to take a bath, a ritual bath. It's not cleaning, but it's making you pure. And there's no physical definition. This is a metaphysical definition. You can do this, you can get clean in the dirtiest waters. Yes, you just have to go down into the water with the intention to do it as a purification. But what we see here, that then she is bringing the offering of returning to the temple. So she is a mother after giving birth with a child, and she's coming to the temple. But if you see it here, there is a slight change from her to present him, and
that's yesterday's feast, Sreteni, that's it.
Okay, this is it. And this is not Jewish. This is completely not Jewish. Yes, the idea is that she can come again to the temple. This is Jewish and these are the offerings. Yes? But the beginning of Christianity understood it in maybe a folk tradition, that this was also a chance to show the product, the child, in front of God. And this folk belief, not written in the Torah, not written anywhere, is tested here. Highly interesting. And if you would see this today, nowadays, the same thing when a woman after giving birth, coming again to the synagogue, the most important thing is bring the child. So there is a kind of dynamic understandable, but this is not according to scripture. This is according to what the people it seems to be did. Okay. And then there are all kinds of people that giving good omens, they give good signs for Jesus and so on. And when they were performed everything according to the law of the law, they returned into Galilee, to their own town Nazareth, and the child grew and became strong, filled with wisdom, and the favor of God was upon him. So now is the family separated from the temple or not? They went, but they're doing the things according to the law of God. That means 3 times a year, walking 3 to 4 days from the Galilee to Jerusalem. 3 times a year. And then the Shavuot festival is only for 2 days, so it's for 1.5 days or something like that. That's tough to be 3 days or 4 days on the way for 2-day festivals. Okay. Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of Passover, and when he was 12 years old, they went up according to custom. And this is very important. Luke is not so much into this. He wants to show that Jesus is Jewish. The family of Jesus is Jewish by custom. They are not the intellectuals looking in the books, in the manual how to be a Jew. No, they are looking what the neighbor's doing, what everybody is doing. Yeah? Up according to custom, and not according law. This is the idea. Yes? And when the feast was ended and they were returning, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem. his parents did not know there's so many people, so they have only one son, but they did not know where he was. Okay, but supposing him to be in the group, they went a day's journey. But then they began to search for him. Those who went northwards, and not eastwards, and not westwards, and not southwards. So they say, okay, if all these people going back home, we may be in the group in our group may find him, but they didn't find him. And but when they began to search for him among their relatives and acquaintances, and when they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem searching. After 3 days, Jerusalem is a big city for someone coming from the Galilee. And after 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting among in the front of the television and playing PlayStation. No, he is sitting in the temple and doing and among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. A revolution is taking place here. What does the temple do? It's a cultural site for offerings, for priestly service, for the connection by liturgy between the people of Israel and God. What you're not supposed to do there? Study.
Have children.
Make it, do it, yes? This is divine service by doing, not by studying. There's a difference between the church and the academy, I hope. Yes? And the idea is that they may be close. I've been here in the Department of Theology, so there is a church inside the campus. But okay, so the idea is there's something strange here. Since when is the temple the center of learning? Nobody said this before. It's beginning as motif in Judaism after the destruction of the temple. Because what is left for Judaism after the destruction of the temple? Divine service by studying. Okay? And here we have Lucas. Luke, with his fingers on the pulse of Judaism, and he's taking Jesus already into a scene where he was studying in this. If you don't want him as a priest, and he isn't a priest in this term, but someone will make him priest in the letter of the Hebrews, but in the Gospels he's not a priest, but he's already a studying person. This is the new model of Judaism after the destruction. So he's writing after the destruction, and he's aware that this new model is coming up, and if you want, and you like it or not, Jesus had made both exams. The exams of holiness in the temple and the examination in the academy, in the new rabbinic academy. This is for Jewish history an important document, only for understanding this, and this is so simple Christian text, you can read it and you have no problems. But Jewish understanding begins to show new perspective in the text. That this is one of the first texts speaking about it, that people are learning, sitting in the temple, coming to the temple to learn. Yes? And this is a tradition. Okay? And then his mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us so? Behold, your father and I are searching you with doing great distress." Okay, parents not finding their children is the first child. And the seventh child was looking. And he said to them, "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know I must be in my Father's house?" And here you see how it's working already into Christian context. Working in the Jewish context and speaking into the Christian context. But this makes this book so interesting for Jewish reading. Yes? That where he wants to take it from. Okay? And in this way I believe him. That he wants to take it from too. Yes? I'm not on the other side. I'm not a Christian, but I'm trying to follow this. Okay? And they did not understand the saying that he spoke to them, and he went down with them and came to Nazareth. Why he came down? Because it's the Temple Mount. And you go down from the Temple Mount to the way in the Jordan Valley up to the way north. And he came to Nazareth and was submissive to them. He was a good child. His parents said, "Don't do this again," and so on. And his mother treasured up all these things in her heart. You don't need these things. Only in one case, and this happens here. There are women in the audience. There might be mothers in the audience. Okay? This is not sentimental, but this is taking not only male listeners into account, but also female. To whom he wrote this book? Oh, as usual, to a guy, Theophilus. But he already knows that early Christianity, has new audiences. New audiences? Yes, women. This is very important. The women have a very special role in the New Testament literature. Afterwards, Paul would put them in their place. Yeah? Back up. Here we have also here in the building. Yes, you have up the women's floor. Yes, that they won't bother us in our prayers and so on, our male prayers, and so on. This is crazy way going up. New Testament has a new it's one of the new sensitivities of the New Testament is to be aware that there are women. Might be. Yeah, and so on. And just now I have to do this. This is giving back to my friends here that are keeping me aware that there is also Serbian art and so on. This is in Kosovo, but it's Serbian art and so on. And here you see that this is the academy sitting on the chair of the bishop, giving instructions. This is Jesus sitting. Not a child, already the young man, and so on, and the old people are listening and discussing with him, speaking with hands, Jewish way, not this way, and so on. But this is the best of Serbian art. Yes, so on. So I have to thank Nena and Jelena for the introductions to me to this world. So, of course, in European departments of art history, they are not so found.
Well, no.
Maybe you have your colleagues
Byzantine studies and
yeah.
People from Greece,
I hope,
Bulgaria,
yes,
people
okay.
from Austria, people from Germany, France.
Yeah, but this someone, it's not in the normal curriculums to be found. But afterwards, if you see
it, if they're studying Byzantine anything, they have to know this. I mean, they have to know that. Literally, they have to know. So.
Yes. Okay. I hope. Okay. So now we are changing book to the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Once again, it's a short sentence. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. I'm in the right class? Because this sounds like a syllogism, mathematics in words. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through Him, and with Him was not anything made that was made. In Him was life, and the life was the light of man. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. First of all, from the point of literature, all kind of metaphorics working here, analogies working here, and it's a crazy opening of a book. Why? Don't you have any nice stories about Jesus? And he has good stories, John. But not revelation, relation. And And if you know now the beginning of the Genesis, book of Genesis, en arche epoesen, en arche en hologos. He uses the same words of the beginning of the Old Testament to begin his gospel in the New Testament. For this, he has to go some levels up in abstraction and bringing a kind of syllogism that makes it possible afterwards, every time when you go back to this book, to see the elements of the story according to this mathematics. Yes? And again, the new translation, I don't recall the names now without reading them. There's a new translation of the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament, from not in church use, but for scientific use. And you see, they did translate it, and the one asked, how did you translate? So I translated the same way, and so on. Simply to show this, and so on. I give you the names of the both translators, because this is not the regular church translation. And it's some of the translations are good. In some places, Eliezer tells me, impossible. Okay, but okay. Now, if we look at the Gospel of John, it's not beginning with a story, not with a genealogy, not with a nice story of another family. It begins with theology. Yes, it begins with abstract thinking and reflection of how can we understand on Jewish background, en ache, bereshit. We can understand the story of Jesus. Yes, this is the idea. He wants to be connected by the opening words. He wants to be connected by using biblical citations, but he wants to tell another story. And so he gives us a very abstract syllabus of what we have to expect. And this is a kind of opening of mysticism. If you read this text, you have no concrete things in hand. You have only abstraction at hand. And if you read it a lot of time, your mind can't stand this abstraction. There are some mathematicians in my community that can read this fun and playing with it. But again, for someone who's looking for a story, it's a stress. But then you connect by your own, on your own account, once again, okay? But the real power comes in this moment, when this is the ending of the Evangelium of Lucas, and this is the beginning of John. So this makes the difference, the whole difference. Lucas reads into Jewish world. John reads into Lucas in Jewish world. Afterwards comes John, and he's reading into Christian reflection. You can understand what's now happening? Both are now part of one book, and this is exactly the questions we ask for. Why one person, 4 biographies? Couldn't they sit together for some days and take all the relevant chapters in the right version and make one book, one version? And the Christian community was unable to do it. They tried it a few times. We have at least some 5 notices about it. We have 2 books, Diatessaon and so on. We have books or remnants of these books. We have a Syrian version for it, but it didn't work out. Finally, they tried to begin. And this is a 4th century Egyptian papyrus, and giving us already the connection between the two books. So we have Mark, the local Jewish tradition. Matthew begins his Jewish genealogy, but makes it all throughout the whole book a continuous connection between the story of Jesus and the Greek Jewish Bible. Yes, it's happening according to the Bible. Luke begins in the Temple of Jerusalem, not in the Galilee. I don't know the name of the northern province you recalled
It's
here.
very relative. It doesn't have to be northern province.
Oh, it doesn't have to.
North is,
Okay. So there might be also southern provinces. But in Israel it's the northern province, and Galil means in Hebrew province. This is the name. So he begins the story in the temple where it has to begin and where it has to end, in Jerusalem. Yes, as the center of the Jewish world. And John takes it to a kind of Jewish metaphysics, a kind of abstract world of theological reflection. Yes? But one thing is clear. Local Jewish tradition, Greek Jewish Bible, temple in Jerusalem, Jewish cosmology. Who were the intended readers? Someone had to know Jewish tradition. From somehow, somewhere. Let's say, okay. Now, if we look at this, Menachem Stern, a historian in Jerusalem University, wrote a big collection of Greek and Latin authors on Jews and Judaism. Everything that was written in antiquity about Jews and Judaism, he collected and made an edition with an English translation of all these sources. One thing in his 3 volumes is clear, 3 big volumes. They had no idea about the Bible, about the Jewish Bible. They knew that they were doing, they had their culture club, the synagogue, but they were not knowing what they are reading. They knew a lot of texts in antiquity, the Greek and Latin authors, but they had no idea about the Bible. Only Christianity will go over this borderline and then bring the Old Testament and the New Testament to knowledge of Roman intellectuals. Okay? So the most important point is the Gospels were written for Jewish audiences. Full stop. Or God-fearing non-Jews. What does this mean? People who were living around the culture clubs of the Jews, the synagogues, and they were aware of the traditions, of the customs, of the world of the Jews. They knew why Jerusalem is important, because it's the metropolitan of the Jewish being. It's the major stage, so they could understand it. Who in Rome would give a shit on this town in the Near East, yes, and so on and so on. This we have to understand. 100 years later, after the Gospels, there are Christians all over the world, the Roman world, from the north to to Spain, to North Africa, already in the eastern of Mesopotamia. There are Christians that have the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, and they can relate to the New Testament together with the Old Testament. This is a revolution, and then these people are speaking all the time. They are missionaries. They are spread the word. So this time, in the 3rd century, the Jews, still unknown for most of the Romans, but the Christians get already known with their ideas and so on. Okay. So this is the interesting point, and I just want to say all these ideas that are new in the Second Temple period are made and tested in the New Testament world. So this makes it so interesting. Universal monotheistic faith. When there comes a non-Jewish woman to Jesus, he's saying, I'm not coming to you, so I won't heal you. But when she asked for it the second time, you're in. So she's breaking the borderline between Jews and non-Jews, between Israel and not. Living with the Bible. the Jews beginning to live with the Bible, with the book of Psalms, with the book of Moses and the prophets and the prophets and the prophets. And also, this is shown in the New Testament. The idea of the world to come. Abraham had no world to come if he wouldn't have a son. The world to come was the next generation. But in Rabbinic Judaism, there is a world to come even if I don't have children and even if I die. The idea of resurrection. There is no resurrection in the Old Testament. You can look all the pages through. There is no idea of resurrection. But in the Second Temple period, it becomes clear, and the New Testament is built on it. Kiddush Hashem, the martyrium. Yes, that someone is ready to die to testify that there is a God that you don't see. Yes, and there is a belief in God that you can't measure. Okay, so I have to die for it, that you will say, okay, this is strange. Everyone wants to live. No? There is Shabbat, and there are rules on the Shabbat, already discussed in the New Testament, in the new ways that this. And if you simply, someone who knows Hebrew will see it now very well. These new ideas, the old new ideas of Rabbinic Judaism, they are in Aramaic. Erovim, not Erovim, if you know in Hebrew. Yes? And Kiddushin, the marriage, yes, is not Kiddushim in Hebrew, but Kiddushin like in Aramaic. Divorce is Gittin, not Gittim. The phylacteries are called tefillin. These are the early step of evolving rabbinic law, and this has these Aramaic endings, and they are all attested in the New Testament. The synagogue. The New Testament knows what the synagogue is. And the craziest thing, that what was only for the temple to be kosher, it was a kosher offering. There was no kosher food before Second Temple period. But then people are saying, yes, I have to prepare my food as if it was for the altar. And this is a new concept, and now everybody knows that Jews eat kosher food. But there is no kosher anymore because there is no altar anymore. No, this is this kind of transition. The rabbis or the early Judaism in the Second Temple made this change. Okay, so now I just want to skip. Okay, so we now understand the diversity of the Gospels. Every book is changed. They have the same tradition sometimes, but they are telling them on a different perspective. And I hope I found a right translation of the Thomas Aquinas. Thomas Aquinas is one of the most holy, unholy persons of the Catholic Church. Holy because he is really a church father in teaching. On the other hand, he is an Aristotelian. He makes distinctions. And this is very difficult. Distinctions are very difficult for the church, and so he is half in, half out as an Aristotelian. But I think the idea is one book gives me one perspective. Two books, I have a perspective. I need a perspective for how to live with both books. If there are four, well, this is the gymnasion of the early Christians. They had experience in the Jewish tradition that there were double takes in the Old Testament. The Kings and the Chronicles have the same stories, and they're rephrasing them. So they could learn it from learning Bible, that there's a wisdom in it, that you have two versions. And after you saw a movie or a music piece once, maybe when you see it twice, you see it in another way, so there might be interesting something. So, multiple prophets, multiple psalms. So, you're living with this kind of work. And then double entries are not double entendre. So, if you have two different things speaking about the same matter, that does not mean that there are two different things metaphysically. Yes? So you have two different texts about the same things. This does not mean that the things are double. Yes? No, the intention is not double. The intention is keep you, welcome, you are the reader. And this brings to this complex building of the books of the New Testament. The first thing is Paulus. He is the earliest one who writes, and it's a completely other story with Paul to get along with him. But then, in the land of Israel, when Paul is already leaving to Rome and making Middle East travels, he comes to the oral tradition, become books. But before they become books, they become two collections. One is a collection of the narrative or narrations about the life of Jesus. When someone was asking, who was Jesus? So someone began to tell the story of his life. He was born in Nazareth, he came to Jerusalem, and that. And there was another kind of class that was dealing with the saying of Jesus. This is something completely different. How he lived is one saying, and what he was saying was another thing, because sometimes someone is saying something that he's not doing, and so on. So they had a source, Quelle in German. That's the reason it's called Q. Of sources, of sayings, and of narrations, and then begins the crazy dance after the destruction of the temple, because the destruction of Jerusalem brings also to an upheaval of everybody living in the land of Israel, because there was a terrible war for years going on. So the Christians also look up. You have any traditions? Give it to me. I try to bring it, and so we see the literary creation to bring it up to books in the years around the destruction of the war and the destruction of Jerusalem. The first one is Mark telling us the plot, what Jesus more or less did with a few sayings, no pretensions, very simple Greek, close to Aramaic, because this was seen for some narrations was the language. Okay. Then, taking narrations close to Mark and the sayings, Luke built his book. So he had already elements that was his own eyewitness ideas and traditions, and it took both sources, the narrations and the sayings of Mark. Matthew was a man of books. Like he took the Bible in the Septuaginta form, it had it in his mind or on his table. He also took Mark as a book, not as a tradition. So if we find Mark sometimes word by word in his book cited, yes, and he's taking the cue, and so now we have already 3 different books, and these 3 different books are called the Synoptic Gospels. The last one is John, and he's not in the game. He's not in the sources game on the same ground. He looks from the side. He has connections. He knows things about the land of Israel, but he's not aware of everything going on in this way. So this is quite complicated to learn it this way. And then there are afterwards Thomas Evangelion and so on. And there are more and more and more and more of this kind. The main problem is that to study New Testament, you need a book with the versions, with all the versions on your table. And the best is in Greek, then the best way to compare. And then you have the manuscripts with the different versions. And then, no, most of the students, but there is also an English version that does the same kind of work and referring to you what are the changes in the transmission of the text. And this is the book, and I just give you a proportion. It's what is called a coffee table book. I hope it comes up, yes. You see it? Yes. So when I'm studying it, you have the book on the table. Of course, on the one side you have the Greek 4 columns, and on the other side you have the English 4 columns, and then my wife said, and now I understand that you learn, but where do you want to write? Because other things have no place on the table. Okay, so this is just giving you an idea that this is a serious matter. I just want to say that this edition, brilliant edition, made in Greek and in English, and is usable for English readers only. So this is the idea, or was the idea, that this book is not to be found in the National Library of Israel, because they have something against this kind of Jesus stories. Yes? They're bringing Jesus when it's related to Judaism, but they're not bringing this book up because it's one of the most important research tools for Jewish traditions like Luke. So I have 2 versions at home. One I studied with in Germany and one in English now for my teaching business in Israel, but it's okay. I just want to bring you 2 things. Okay, and just keep it up in front of. Okay, why not one story, one book? Okay, because the rewriting or the harmonizing didn't succeed. The power of the polyphony in a canon. When you have more voices, there is more in-betweens. This is more than the words alone. Yes, when you have more versions in your head, and so on. Jesus of the local tradition according to Mark, a mystery. This is what they're saying about was the main idea of Mark was that Jesus was a mystery. Becomes in John the secret of the creation. We saw it. Jesus in between the intertextuality of Matthew. Yes? With the Old Testament, New Testament, all the time intertextualities. Acts in the historical realm of Luke. Luke gives us the world, the stage, the Jewish stage. And this is an answer to a poem of my teacher Yair Zakovich. And he wrote after teaching about intertextuality in the New Testament at the Hebrew University, and he didn't repeat it the course once, but one time he gave it, and I was abroad in sabbatical, so I couldn't attend it. But afterwards he sent me this poem. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John wrote for me my life, as you like it. Who is speaking? Jesus. Yes? And they wrote it as you like it. You hear Shakespeare, I hope. They didn't know even one of my thoughts, and not one afterthought of my desires. The books of the Gospels cover up, hide, miss. They only had left in them some blank white pages. For me. Yes, this is the idea. But then afterwards I said to him, no, it's not the way. I like this approach. That in the between, there is the richness of the sources. Okay. Now, we began at, we have 10 minutes left, okay? Oh, okay. So, I want to come with you to the nice idea of transfiguration. The idea is that we have the story of transfiguration, and it's one of the earliest early events in the life of Jesus. And this would be, if you remember the story, if you recognize it, it's the story of Mount Tabor, where Jesus is with 3 students, three of his disciples. He is going up to the mountain, and then something is happening. We try to read it, and then, wow, if we would be in the stage of revelation, this was the place that Jesus, who was up there, would now come down and speak. And let's see how he reacts it in the age of relation. After 6 days of preaching and working with the community around this Sea of Galilee, Jesus took with him Peter and Jacob, not James, Jacob, Jacob, if you want, if you want it this way, and John, Johann, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became radiant, intensely white, as no one on earth could bleach them. This is very nice. He can say perfect white. But what he's bringing up, comparison is very provincial. When someone sees something nice, clean, white, he also say how it's possible to make. Yes, so he's not taking only the image, he also taking that it's impossible to make it this way. And they appeared to them Elijah with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. Wow, okay. You go with some students on the mountain, and then someone is happening to you, and you are invited to a small talk, 3 people on a mountain, not in a boat, not in a car, and are speaking, and this is not less than Moses, the lawgiver in the Torah, and Elijah, the prophet of the coming of the Messiah. Okay, and they're talking. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. And Peter said to Jesus, Rabbi, and he's using Rabbi, he's saying Rabbi, my teacher, not Rabbi as a job description in the community, but Rabbi, my teacher. It is not good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah. You know what the Scouts are? They have reflected in Scout movements, as Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. So their first reaction is when something is happening, let's build something. The first reaction of Peter is when something is happening, what he wants to do? Let's build a tent, let's build a building, let's build a beginning of a temple. This is a holy space. So this is his reflection. This is his reflex of some holy place, you have to show it. There are enough mountains in Serbia with holy places on them, or something like this. The idea is that a mountain, holy place, we build something. For he did not know what to say, for they were terrified. The author is giving him respect. Okay. And a cloud overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud, "This is my beloved son, listen to him." And suddenly looking around, they no longer saw anyone with them but Jesus only. And as they were coming down the mountain, he charged them to tell no one what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what a rising from the dead might mean. Okay. What Jesus is asking from his disciples? Don't build me a temple, but keep it as a memory. Even don't put it in words, because they don't understand what they have seen. Keep it as a memory. What does this mean? This can't be a revelation. This is a relation. To whom? Jesus, Moses, Elijah. You know Moses? Certainly not. By texts, by formulations. But if you saw him once, you would recognize him. They recognized him. But don't write it down. But don't put it into words. Don't formulate it out. And this is so fantastic that it's a scene of relation. Jesus is in the club of Moses, Elijah, Jesus. Don't put it in words. Okay? And the author's putting it in words. So, but the first reaction is, it's an experience, and it's not, it's an experience of a relation. Yes? Okay. And just bring this, okay, this is when I was 18 years old, I was there, and from then on I have my images about the Byzantine world have changed, and so on. And here you see, yes, Ioanne, Petros, Jakobos, and you have Elias and Moses. And you see, and this is the idea. So what they did in Santa Catarina and the Mount Sinai, they make a typology in connection. The mountain where the law was given, Mount Sinai, to the people of Israel, this Mount Tabor is the mountain where not the written Torah. Jesus was not opening and coming now and giving like Moses, coming down and giving them tablets of the written text, nothing. He giving them memory, not giving them text. This is a very strong difference. And Elijah, who is giving hope, according to the Old Testament, is also in the club, and he's defining the hopes? No, he's relating to one source of the hopes. Okay, this is the main idea. Okay, we are finished in 3 minutes. And the 6 days Jesus took with him. This is now the version of Matthew. Peter, James, and John. Okay, the same, Jacob and John, and his brother, and led him up to the mountains by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like a sun. Okay, this is already getting a little bit to get an idea how looks it when someone is transfigured. Yes, so he is trying to catch it in words. His clothes became white as light, and behold, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. And Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good that we are here. All the professors are speaking up there, so what do we have to do here, down here? If you wish, I will make 3 tents here. One for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah. The same Boy Scouts technology. If there's something holy, build something. Yeah? And he was still speaking when, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their faces and were terrified. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, Rise and have no fear. And when they lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Jesus only. And then again saying, don't speak about this. Don't put it into words. Take it as a memory. And this I like so much. Yes? So that someone tries to get the uncatchable somehow into medium picture. Yeah? You see the difference between Luke and Matthew. Matthew is with the relations. There's a kind of metaphor, and there is a kind of Jesus trying to explain them. Keep calm, don't fear, I'm taking care of you. I brought you here, so I'm responsible for you. Yeah? But then taking these classical, this is connected to the Mount Sinai clearly, and then the other one is trying anew. How can I show these connections? Relations. Okay, not revelation. Yeah, this is the difference. For me, it became clear some 2 weeks ago when I was looking for materials for this. And thank you for the opportunity that thinking about this gives so strong influence. And since then, I'm rewriting all my materials. Because, but this is the idea that not revelation, that something out-formulated that I can take as a text, as a booklet, as a picture, as something out-formulated, but I'm taking a relation. And relations are complicated, relations are renewing, relations getting and changing, and this is exactly what makes it so interesting. This change of intellectual paradigm, not taking only the one mountain, Jerusalem, the Temple Mount. No, there might be a mount in northern Israel, land of Israel, where this take head. It was impossible for the Christians not to identify the mountain, and it was impossible for them not to write it, and it was not impossible for them not to paint it. But if we get the idea that this is an element in Christian tradition that is, let's say, the Jewish, the big change that was happening in this generation in Jewish tradition, coming from revelation to relation, that this story is, from my point of view, 100% built on it. Because Jesus is not coming down from the mountain and said, I have the paper from, taking the paper from Moses, I get the paper from this, and now I'm showing you my red book, yeah, of the new party. No, he's not showing it this way. He's silent, don't speak about it. Okay. I spoke enough. Thank you.
Thank you.